Welcome, everyone. This is the DFS Bum, your source for NBA single slate tournament information. So, all right, guys, let's get into finally a meaningful game here with a tournament that's just full of meaningful games, even though it's a one-game tournament, the play-in game here that's going to be tomorrow. It's Friday night right now. So they just published this out on Fanduel. It's out on Draftkings. Fair amount of money there for first place, $100,000. So I think it's worth doing a video. I decided not to do a video the last 2 days just because it's so freaking crazy and insane out there. It was just like, what was the freaking point? Anybody I'd be talking to the night before, chances are would be irrelevant the next day. And I couldn't do anything personally like before lock because I was just farting around with my own damn lineups, just changing everything at the last minute. And then dealing with, there's been some tech issues too with Fanduel going on with some stuff too the last couple of days, so it's been pretty nuts. But thank God the playoffs are here and we can get back to this normal rotation. And thank God that they played the games and there's been no issues, knocking on wood there, with COVID or anything. So kudos to the NBA so far for how they're doing this. So, all right, guys, let's get in the game here. And then the one last thing before we do the game, if you're not a member of the channel yet, please subscribe to the channel. Give me a thumbs up. That will help with the algorithms, help get this picked up as a recommended video, and help grow the channel. I definitely appreciate that. So, all right, guys, let's get into it now. So tonight, my favorite guys for FanDuel as far as MVP are probably going to be Lillard and I'd probably go with Valanciunas, I think. Now, we know Nurkic started off real hot in the beginning of the playoffs, and then he started to come back down to earth. He did have 40 points his last game, but before that, 23 points, 33, 42, and then he had those monster games in the beginning when he was in the mid-50s. So it seems like he's coming back down to earth a little bit more, and Hassan Whiteside is playing a little bit more too. Excuse me. So I'm probably thinking between Valanciunas with his just ability to rebound, score down low, block some shots. He even had a triple-double the other night too, with him and Morant did. And so those guys are definitely my favorites on FanDuel as far as the MVP. And I'd probably even say Lillard's probably my favorite guy. No surprise, of course, there with that. Now, on FanDuel, there's no salary multiplier, so I'm looking at the FanDuel salaries right now, right here. So you basically just going to try to take the guys that you can with $60,000 and then fit them into the price tag. So really, your top three players with Lillard, Nurkic, and Morant, they're all coming in with $4,400. So you got $16,000 left over. And with FanDuel, if you're familiar with that, or if you're not familiar with it, there's four positions. There's your MVP that gets a 2-time multiplier on the points, not the salary, just the points. And then there is the star part, or the star role, and that gets 1.5 points multiplier. You have your pro, which is a 1.2, and then you have your two utility players. So you basically want to try to fit in there who you think are going to be your top three scorers that still give you a reasonable salary left over. So you're not just sitting here with Josh Jackson and Anthony Simmons or something like that. In this case, that's 12,000, you got 4,000 more to play with, but you wouldn't want to necessarily do something like that. So as far as those mid-tier guys that might come into play here, let's see, as far as the cheapest guys, Simon's not really seeing it. Jackson, Tyus Jones, he's the only guy, I guess, with any sort of medical designation. Let me see here. I don't think he's even really played. I can't really honestly see him being in my playing pool for the time being. Grace, he hasn't played at all in quarantine. So I'd probably gonna drop him. Anthony Tolliver has started because they like Brandon Clark coming off the bench once Triple J got hurt there. Jaren Jackson, but again, he's not really playing that many minutes. So I would probably say, though, if you did want to dive down, I'd probably take those guys and then take them out of there. Maybe that. So in that case, that would allow you to go up to say $10,000 if you wanted to have Carmelo with him. That would be about the only reason I would see to maybe do that. And honestly, Gary Trent has probably got just as much potential to go off as Carmelo. So Anthony Tolliver isn't really all that exciting. Hezonja at $7,000, not really that excited about him. Gorgie Jang, maybe a big man. That's a possibility. And if you were to play him, though, I probably wouldn't play him if I had, say, Valanciunas as my MVP, or maybe even the second part. I'll just type that in there real quick. MVP, star, and then pro. So that's basically how you would be able to work that out. You got $16,000 to kind of slice and dice it. Grayson Allen's been playing some minutes, Zach Collins, and then getting up into Gary Trent, Kyle Anderson. So that's kind of the area right there that you could play with if you're looking at these three guys. That's with Nurkic. Now, for example, what might even be a better option, though, is let's say we take Valanciunas out of there, and then we're going to take him, given that Nurkic has struggled a little bit. It looks like he's been getting some foul problems too. I think that's part of it. So if we do something like that, it's really just kind of changes things quite a bit. So now we have 42,000 available. Do some quick spreadsheet stuff here. Minus K. So that gives us 17,500 to play with. So now that right there is probably where I'm going to have a bulk of my guys rotating in and out of those spots. I usually will take, like in my MVP, usually 2 guys, maybe sometimes 3, like back maybe 3 or 4 games ago when guys were still playing, like when the Lakers played Denver, I would rotate like Davis and LeBron and the Joker at my MVP spots, but that's pretty rare. Like if I was playing a game with, like, say, just the Bucks were playing somebody, like I just, that didn't have a superstar, like I'd just be all in on Giannis. So it's usually just 1 or 2 guys, maybe 3. Tomorrow, like I say, I think I'm probably just going to keep it to Lillard and Valanciunas. I can't see Morant upstaging Lillard, and I can't. And then I just say the big men have the potential to potentially just blow up, just with their ability to get rebounds and block shots. Now that the star spot, though, I would probably going to have that player pool is going to be all 3 of those guys. So usually, like I say, there's maybe 1 or 2 guys, no more than 3. When I get to my star spot, then I'd like to try to grow that to maybe 3 spots. And then down here, the pro spot, I might stay 3, maybe 4 or 5. It just kind of depends on how the salaries play out. Now, in this case, with 17,500 left over, that gives us some room to try to get in some of these, maybe like you could start getting in like a Dylan Brooks or a Blandon Clark. We don't have enough room yet to get into McCollum. But maybe Hassan Whiteside, things like of that nature. I probably wouldn't have Whiteside in the same accounts with Nurkic in it, though, with the idea that if he goes off, it's because Nurkic is getting some foul problems or isn't playing for whatever reason. Hassan Whiteside, if you go back and look at the games he had played in quarantine, he's only played about 15 or 16 minutes a game, but his points per minute have been phenomenal. It's been about like in the 1.3s or something like that. Kyle Anderson's another mid-tier guy that I like his price tag there. So you can kind of see it. And then, again, like I look at McCollum as having as much potential as a guy like Ja Morant. So you could even have a little bit more room on certain lineups where, because that's what I'll do with McCollum is, he probably won't go into my star spot, but for example, he would be part of my player group for the pro spot. And in fact, Nurkic would actually make that. So I probably will keep Lillard and Valanciunas in my MVP, and then my list will grow. When I get to the star spot, I'll be Lillard, Valanciunas will be in there, and then I'll probably grow it to Morant and Nurkic, and then from there. And McCollum could definitely be in there, but I'm going to kind of be of the mindset he's going to be second fiddle between all those guys. And then I'll keep all those 4 guys and then McCollum right in that last that pro spot. And I don't think I'm going to mess around with any of these other guys. Sometimes it makes sense where you might be able to get like a Clark and a Dillon, like these guys are right around 10 grand and up by having more of like, but you'd have to end up throwing like a Clark or a Brooks or a Carmelo in that pro spot, which, I mean, anybody can go off. We all know that, but it doesn't seem to be as a successful strategy as opposed to, just trying to take these really high-end guys that got more potential to blow up. So that's basically going to be the strategy with it. Now, for you guys that play on DraftKings, they're going to do a multiplier with the salary. So from there, I really like it. That's where I say, if you play both slates, you might like maybe lean towards Lillard on Fanduel. And I do like Valanciunas going on to DraftKings because now we're taking the salary times 1.5. And so, for example, Lillard's, and you have a $50,000 salary cap. So Lillard's like 12 grand on there. So he's going to end up being 18,000 if he goes into your MVP spot. Whereas Valanciunas is only 8,600. So we're going to times that by 1.5. So that just gives you some more room to play around with some guys there. But I think in general, you kind of get the feel with it. And all you really need to do is just build like a real simple spreadsheet like this, or you can. I just downloaded this from from the entry form into FanDuel, and then just play around with it. And if you should probably learn some basic spreadsheet skills. It's not necessary, but it's real handy at times to do things where if you want to just crunch some numbers, especially things like this where you want to kind of see the guys who are out there, you could throw in these are just the averages that they've had for the year, but you can put in your own point projection in there, and then you can start to do like little sums and see how much salary you have, how much room, and again, these are going to be multiplied, but you could put multipliers in there, or you could just take the straight up adding and just knowing that, add the total, just knowing that they're going to get multiplied. So those are some things to consider. And then really about the last thing with these strategies is I never typically will try to have 4 guys from the same team in any lineup. It usually just doesn't seem to make sense like that. Not to say that that can't happen, but the reality is it's just that there's only one ball and there's only X amount of points to go around, and it's probably going to be relatively rare in the NBA to find it, even though just the way that the salaries work out, that you're going to find like 4 guys are all going to be on the same team. They're going to have that top score that would all fit within that salary guidelines. That's not unheard of. Maybe sometimes just because you get a really cheap player down low, that's more of an anomaly because of an injury. So it's not a hard and fast rule, but in general, you probably like you wouldn't want to put in Nurkic and Hassan Whiteside and like Carmelo Anthony together, and then like Lillard or McCollum, in my opinion. Like that would not make any sense at all. You probably wouldn't put like Gary Trent, McCollum, like Lillard, and Carmelo Anthony together, like, kind of 4 perimeter type guys or forward/guards. It's probably not going to make sense. Like the scoring is going to work out. So if you do happen to have guys that are on the same team, maybe it's like a couple big men, or like like 2 guards, a forward and a big man or something. At least something where someone's going to get some rebounds, and there's still room for points from others that get assists and maybe steals and just scoring points in general. So those are pretty much my thoughts on it. There's a lot of money out there tomorrow. I guess that would be one thing to be said about maybe being contrarian a little bit, and then maybe throwing up, like a CJ McCollum could be an MVP. It's not unheard of. Something like that could potentially happen. And then maybe just like Lillard's not in there at all, because chances are, I bet you, probably about 70% of the lineups will probably end up having Lillard, I'd imagine, in there at some place. So those are some things to potentially think of with the idea that Lillard might just have a really shitty night. Nurkic could easily come back out and have a 50-point night, so he's another guy that I could see being at that MVP. I think a lot of people probably have Lillard and Morant into there. Me, like I say, I just don't see this Lillard being the veteran he is. I can't see Morant upstaging him. Lillard's just a badass, man. I don't know if you guys have seen him, but I mean, it's like, talk about a guy willing his team into the playoffs. He like just refuses to let them loose, and if they win tomorrow, then they're done. If they lose, then they'll play on Sunday. So I think he's going to want to just play and have that day off and just kind of chill out before they start back up next week. So anyhow, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this analysis. Once we get into single games, deep in the playoff runs, I'm going to start to track the stats. I started to do it, but the lineups got so squirrely, it didn't make sense. But I'll start keeping these tracking the minutes and the points, and so we can start to see these more definitive rotations as we get deeper into the playoffs, especially as we get into these single game tournaments where there's a lot of money on the line. Like usually most nights there's maybe 10 or 20,000 for first place, but like I say, it's like 100,000. Last summer it was 200,000 for the finals. I end up tying for first. It was 200,000 for first and 50,000 for second, so I won $125,000 playing these stupid single game tournaments, and I won a lot more money from that too. So as we get further into it, I'll bring that line up from last year, and I can go over that as kind of like a study review of just kind of how these games work and how you can really cash in on them. So, all right, guys. Again, if you're not a member of the channel yet, please subscribe, and if they win, I'll do another video. If not, then I'll be back there Monday for, actually I'll release it Sunday night, but it'll be for the playoffs for Monday. So, all right, guys, take care. See ya.